Hey guys, today I'm going to share with you how to make easy and delicious Italian meatball soup. This Italian meatball soup has tender meatballs, orzo and kale, and the most delicious tomato broth. And I served it with some garlic bread, and my family really enjoyed this warm and cozy meal. So let's get started. So first off, I'm going to grate half an onion for our meatballs, because I find that grating the onion rather than chopping the onion will give our meatballs flavor without having like big chunks of onions in our meatballs. And you want to be careful to stop at the end of the onion because you don't want to grate your fingers and bleed everywhere, just like I have in the past. Now let's get started on making our meatballs. In a mixing bowl, I'm going to add 1 pound of ground beef, the half an onion that we just grated, 1 teaspoon of oregano, 1 teaspoon of dried basil, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of salt plus half a teaspoon of pepper, 1/3 cup of Panko breadcrumbs, and 1 beaten egg. Want to go ahead and put it in a bowl first and beat it. That way you don't get any shells accidentally into your ground beef mixture. There we go. And now I'm going to mix it using my best utensils, which are my hands, until it's well combined. Now using my hands, I'm going to form the meatballs. And I'm going to form them about 1 inch in diameter, about like that big. And we're going to end up with 12 meatballs total. And then I'm going to go ahead and bake them in the oven, which is so much easier than pan frying them over the stove. And after I started using this method, I never went back. It's so much easier. And some people might think that making meatballs takes a lot of steps, but you saw how I did it. You just toss everything in a bowl, roll and bake, and that's just it. And trust me, when you guys start using this method, you're gonna wanna make meatballs more often. And when we serve this meatball soup with some garlic bread, it is just gonna make the best combo. My son's favorite part is dipping the garlic bread into the soup. And I love that it's not just a hearty, delicious meal, it's a healthy meal. Now I'm going to chop up 1 bunch of kale. And if you don't like kale, feel free to substitute with spinach. This is just a great way to add in some greens to our soup. Okay, so I lied. These meatballs are actually 1.5 inches in size, not 1 inch. But if you want to make them smaller, feel free. I kind of like my meatballs a little bit thicker in size. And for the soup, we are going to be needing some dried oregano and basil, some minced garlic, the other half of the onion that I diced up, some tomato sauce, and we are going to be using some orzo pasta. If you're unfamiliar with orzo, it's pasta in the shape of rice. I like adding these to my soups. And we are also going to be needing some chicken broth. And I'm gonna go ahead and bake these up in the oven, and while this is baking, we are gonna get started on our soup. So meet me over at the stove. I have my oven preheated to 400 degrees, and I'm gonna bake the meatballs for about 20 minutes. I'm gonna add some oil into my pot, and I'm gonna saute half a diced onion and 3 minced garlic cloves. And I'm gonna cook them down until they're slightly softened. This will take about 3 minutes. I'm also going to season with a little bit of salt. Remember to always season along the way. After they have softened up a bit, I'm going to stir in 1 teaspoon of dried oregano plus 1 teaspoon of dried basil. And these are the same seasonings that we used in the meatballs. Now I'm going to add in 6 cups of chicken broth. And you could also use beef broth. I actually tried this recipe with both and they both tasted the same. I'm also going to add in 15 ounces of canned tomato sauce. I'm going to stir and bring this to a boil, and then I'm going to lower the heat to medium low, and I'm going to cover it and let it simmer until the meatballs are completely cooked through. And this will give a chance for the flavors of the soup to get nice and blended. The timer for the meatballs just went off, and now it's time to add them to the soup. I'm also going to add in 3/4 of a cup of dried orzo pasta. And I love this pasta because it's smaller in size and it's going to complement our soup well. The pasta does absorb a lot of the broth as it sits, so we don't want to add too much. I've seasoned the soup up with some more salt and pepper, and I'm going to bring everything back to a boil, and then I'm going to cover and let it simmer for about 9 minutes over medium-low heat until our pasta is almost cooked through. After 9 minutes has passed, it's time to stir in our kale. And like I mentioned earlier, if you're not a fan of kale, feel free to substitute for some spinach. The meatballs with our delicious broth and the orzo and the kale is just such a great combo. And with the garlic bread, it is the perfect meal, and it's also really simple to make. I'm gonna pop the lid back on and let the orzo cook down a bit for about 2 minutes. And after 2 minutes, we are ready to serve our restaurant quality soup. And as always for you guys, I have the full written recipe in the description below if you want to check that out. Oh my goodness, you guys, this soup is looking so incredibly delicious. And I have to admit, I did buy a store-bought garlic bread, but if you do want to make it from scratch, I'll leave my delicious garlic bread recipe in the description below for you guys. And it is time to taste this soup. It is smelling so good, I can't wait. And you saw how incredibly easy it was to make. We let the oven cook our meatballs for us, and then we just had to assemble the soup, add the meatballs back in, and oh, you guys, look how incredibly tender this meatball is. It's like so comforting. It is still rainy and cold here in Southern California, and we're like getting towards the end of March, but anyways, I'm really just excited to have another warm meal. Oh, I forgot. What my husband also likes to do is he likes to add some grated parmesan over his soup. Okay, and you can also add some crushed red pepper flakes if you want. Okay, it's hot. I mean, you can't get any better than this. The meatballs are so tender, the flavor is just melding into one bowl of deliciousness. Let's dip the bread. You guys make this recipe for your family. They're gonna love it. And you guys can thank me later. Anyways, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.